name is Denny, and not too long ago I made a video that shows how I repaired the heater fan on my 2008 Smart Fortwo. By the end of the video, I was pretty pleased with the results. The motor was running beautifully, and I felt that it was going to last for a long time. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Within 2 months, the heater motor decided to start doing exactly what it was doing before, and it slowly ground to a halt. I decided to take the car all apart again, take the motor out, redo the whole process that I did in the first video, and put it all back together. On my dining room table, it seemed to work just beautifully. But once I put the motor back in the car, it didn't last for 2 months. It didn't even last for 2 minutes. So by that point, I was kind of resigned to the fact that I may have to spend some big money and get a new motor for the heater in my car. Now, I went online and I looked up the motors, and you can find them anywhere from maybe $80, $90 up to $350 plus. So I kind of hesitated a little bit, being the procrastinator that I am, and I did not go out and order a new motor. What I did do, though, is I started thinking about what could have actually caused the problem to occur in the first place, and I came up with 2 different things. Now, the first one I'm not even going to bother telling you about because it's inconsequential, but the second one, which should have seemed obvious to me, was the fact that I'm driving a car that's 11 years old now, and any time that motor was running, that little heater fan was running. So it had been running for, the amount of time you drive in 11 years. A lot of time. The thought that those brushes, the brushes on the motor, could possibly be worn down to nothing hadn't occurred to me until I started thinking about it, and I looked back at my old video, the first video that I made of the repair, and I could actually see in that video that the brushes themselves were far down in the brush guides. So I thought, instead of buying a new motor, maybe I can just get replacement brushes for this thing. So off to the internet I go. I went, of course, to Amazon first, and I looked on Amazon. Amazon has tens of thousands of different motor brushes, but none of them say that they're specifically for the Smart Fortwo heater motor. So I widened out my search on the internet, and I came across somebody on eBay who is selling Smart Fortwo heater motor brushes for $19.99 a pair, and $2 and change for shipping. So I ordered a set of those, and they are scheduled to arrive in the mail today. So I'm going to go take the car apart, and I'll clean up the motor and get it all ready to go. And when those brushes come in, I'm going to open the package right here on camera for you, and I'm going to take you through the entire process that I'm going to do to replace those brushes, and we'll see what happens. So through the magic of video editing, those brushes should be here any second. And just like that, a few minutes later, and here it is. The package has arrived in the mail, and it's time to open it up. So let's see what we got here. Alright. These are supposed to be the brushes for the 2008 Smart Fortwo. Little Ziploc bag, and good golly, come on. There's one right there. Okay, first thing I notice is that wire is very fragile looking. You can see one end is ground to match the angle, and one end has like a little notch in it. Can you see that? Now I was looking at the original brush on the car, and it has a similar notch, and I thought that perhaps that notch might be, it might have been a chip, but it looks like it's supposed to be like that. So I have two of these brushes, and I also took the time to take the motor out again, and I've been looking at it, and I'm going to tell you right now, getting the brush, let me take the rubber thing out, getting the brush out of there is going to be a pain in the butt, because there, you see that little speck of green paint right there, and then there's that little bulb right down here, not here, on, yeah, over here. That's where it's soldered on, and there is not a lot of wire to play with. So I'm not going to do it right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do one side first, and once I have a method, I will begin recording again, and I'll show you that method. But before I go any further, I'm going to take this brush and see how well it fits in this brush channel. So it looks to be a perfect fit. Okay, so now the trick is how to get the old brush out, and then how to put the new one in its place. And for that, we're gonna have to do some more video magic. So alright, it's the next morning, and I'm taking advantage of bright sunlight coming in through my window here to help me record this video. That white spot in the center of the screen is the rubber cover over the brush area. On the opposite side, I've got the cover removed, and I don't know if you can tell or not, but the brush is out. Now the brushes are attached. I don't know if I can get in here. The brushes are attached to that little crimped piece, and you can see there's a ball of solder on top, and you see that wire, there's a coil, but yeah, there you go, you can see the coil right there. Oop. Back out, back out. I get beyond my focal range here. Alright. There's a coil. And it is also connected to the brush. Can't really see the wire. There it is. You can almost make it out. But I've got this side desoldered, and I kind of melted the plastic a little bit. But I got the brushes out, and okay, here's the replacement motor brush that I purchased on eBay, and you can see by the ruler that it is approximately 3/4 of an inch long. So that's the replacement, and Here's what I'm replacing. This is the worn brush, and as you can see, it's only about 3/8 of an inch, and it's considerably shorter than the replacement brush. You can also see another difference. The wire, the connecting wire, that copper wire on the older brush is much heavier. The new brush a lot lighter. That will make it probably easier to handle and maybe easier to solder too. I'm hoping anyway. Alright, a couple of things you might want to try, you might want to have on hand if you're taking this solder apart, is you want some desoldering tools. I have this little pick thing with an aluminum tip on it. That came in handy. I have this desoldering tape, and as you can see, if I get in close enough, you can see it's a flat braided wire, and you run that through the liquid solder. You heat it with the soldering gun tip, and you run this stuff through the liquid solder, and it kind of like acts like a sponge and absorbs the solder. Also, you can see I have this little like surgical clamp that came in handy, and it also acted as a heat sink. Anything you have that's going to help you do the job. This is the motor with the brush removed. The first thing I had to do was to release the spring. There's a small spring. You can see the top of it right here, and there's a little hook, a little keeper right there, and this spring is what pushes the brush down firmly against the commutator. Now, in order to get that spring out of there, I had to create this little tool. I just took a piece of galvanized wire, and here, I'll put a ruler here so you can see, and I made a very tiny hook at the end of this piece of wire so I could reach down and grab that spring and pull it up and put it onto that keeper. So in order to do this job, you're going to need some specialty tools, that's for sure. One of the things that I read online about unsoldering these things is that the solder is very hard, and that is true. I read that a pencil, if you have one of those little pencil soldering irons, that's not going to cut it. But for me, I happen to have this 325 watt Weller soldering gun that I purchased while I was in the Air Force back in 1975 or so. So my little 40-year-old soldering gun has done the trick, and that's the original tip. It came with 2 replacement tips, and I still have the original tip on it. But anyway, that is my soldering gun right there. Okay, there is really no good angle for the camera at this point. It's either in my way and I can't see what I'm doing, or what. So I'm just going to see what I can do to heat this up, and I'm going to use some of my desoldering tape here. See if I can pull some of this excess solder out of here. Just going to see if I can heat this up. Oopsie. That's some hard, it's very hard stuff. Alright, I gotta change angles. This is not working. Come on. There we go. Oh, come on. Don't. There we go. Get that loosened up. See if I can soak some of that. Here we go. Let the tape soak it up. But it's not. I got some of it. Alright, here we go, some more. And I accidentally melted a piece of my tripod when I put my soldering gun down. Not happy about that. Oh, come on, I see it. Get in there. Get in there. There we go. Pull it out, baby. Pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Alright, I'm just trying to get the solder to absorb into this tape. And so I got less to deal with. Now I'm going to try and pull both pieces up. I got a heat sink on there. Here we go. I saw it move a little. It's coming. Switch hands. My hand might be in the way. I'm sorry. There we go. There we go. I got it. I got it. Okay. Beauty. Okay, so I have now heated it up to the point where I have removed the wire and that coil wire, and they're still soldered together, but I'm going to work at that and see if I can clean this up a little bit more, get some of the solder off of here, and I'll be able to pull the two wires apart. Now before I finish, I may cut the wire for the brush. I wish the lighting in here was a little better, but I'm sorry, it's tight quarters. Okay, so now I got it down. I did heat it up some more and wiggled those wires, and now I can get my little cutting pliers in here, I think, and cut off the wire that goes to the brush. Again, I'm going to rely on my little tool here and reach down and grab that and pull up. Let's see if I can get it to come out of there. Here we go. Come on. And get my little surgical tools in here. These things are very handy. And there's the brush. Right there. Like pulling a tooth practically, but holy cow, I got it. Alright. So, now it's a matter of putting the new brush in place and putting it all back together, and I think we're done. Okay, so I did a little more cleanup on this wire. That's the one that goes to the coil, and it's going to fit down into this little socket here when it's all done. So my next thing is to insert the new brush down into the brush guide and feed the wire, the power wire, over to connect to this. I'll solder these two together, then reinsert them back into that little hole there, and just put a little cap of solder on top of that. So that's the step anyway. The new brush, it's time to insert that now, so I'm just going to take it, and it can only go into the guide one way, even though it is cut for the arc of the motor commutator. You're going to insert the brush so that the wire fits down into the groove, and here's where my little hook tool comes in handy again. I'm going to use the hook tool to reach in underneath here and grab that wire just so I can feed it down. Come on. And bring it through over to this side. Like that. Now I want it to be away from the armature. So I'm going to put it over to this side, the outside of that coil wire. I'm going to clamp these two together. I don't know if I can do it with my finger in the way here. Clamp the two wires together and then solder them. And then I will insert them into that little thing and seal it up with solder. So let me reposition the camera and I'll do that. Okay, so I've got the wires together and I'm using a heat sink to hold them in place. And now I'm just going to use some of this. Now this is a much softer solder, so it should go very easily. Just going to solder these two together. Put a little blob on there. Alright, let that cool for a moment. And next I'm going to take the two and put them, if I can, back into that little holder, like so. Oops. Maybe not quite like that. Okay. Got them down in there. I did melt the plastic a little bit in the process of taking it apart, so it's not as pretty as it used to be, but it should be just as functional. So let me go ahead and put a dollop of solder on that. See if they'll stay together. Come on. I hope that's in there. Not sure. Well, they're joined together now. All right, I now pronounce you wire and wire. Okay, I think that's it. The essentials are done at this point. The new brushes are installed. One thing you do not want to forget, don't forget to put the spring back onto the brush to hold it down. Now I noticed when I did this that the spring doesn't want to go all the way, and it's giving me a hard time as far as the rubber cap goes, because of the way the spring fits, only because these brushes are so doggone long. So the rubber cap, according to the website that sold me on eBay, the guy who sold these brushes, he says you don't need the rubber caps, but I don't want to lose them either. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the cap on like halfway, just so that it's there, but it's not. Oh, come on. I've done this before and it was much easier. I'm going to put the cap on halfway, and at least I'll have it. There, halfway. As long as it doesn't interfere with the spring, should be okay. All right, that should do it. Now I'm going to go down and get my battery charger and a couple of nails, and we'll put some power on this thing and see if it flies. Okay, now comes the moment of truth. I've got my car charger set on 2 amps. I got a couple of nails in here to act as probe so I can plug in here, and let's see what happens. Hot diggity, man. That looks pretty good. Wow. That thing moves a lot of air. Okay. Well, if it does that good in the car, and it lasts another few years, that was 20 bucks well spent. All right, repositioning the camera. Hello. Well, I'm pleased again, and I think I actually have a valid, reliable fix for the fan motor on a 2008 Smart for 2. I have replaced the brushes, and the motor seems to be working very well. Before I put it back in the car, I will clean the commutator one more time. I mean, it only lasted a couple minutes last time, but it was enough to gunk up again. So I'll give it another little brush down. The job was not a piece of cake as I was hoping it would be. It wasn't as easy as I was hoping it would be, but it wasn't that hard either. It's always harder when you're trying to video record it. Now, as far as getting the motor out of your smart car or putting it back in, go to my other video, okay? The first video I made where I show how you clean the commutator, that video, I'll put a link to it down below, so you'll be able to get to that video, and you'll see those steps as far as how to disconnect the wiring and where the heater is located and all that other business. I don't know. I'm not too like crazy thrilled about the way I have these rubber caps on here, but I think it's going to be fine. If there's a problem, I will take them off. The motor should run just fine without them. Let's go to the next step, and that's putting the heater back in the car, and we'll finish this video up. So first thing I'm going to do is put the blower housing back on, and it's just a matter of sliding it back over the motor and installing the one little torque screw that holds it in place. Okay, our heater assembly is ready to be reinstalled into the car. Let's go. All right, so I may be repeating myself, but I'd rather repeat myself than leave something out. So prior to reinstalling the motor in the car, I did clean the commutator. I lubricated the brushes with silicone spray, the brush channels. I lubricated the brush channels with silicone spray, and I lubricated the bearings with sewing machine oil. So before reassembling the cover, I did use compressed air to blow out any dust, any excess oil, things like that. So this is as good as it's going to get at this point. Okay, so it's time to put it back in the car. In order to make that easier, because I'm not the skinniest guy on the planet and I'm 64 years old, makes the job a lot easier if you take the driver's seat out. If you want to know how to do that, tune into my previous video with the link at the bottom, and I talk about that. Now it's just a matter of getting my big body underneath the dash. It takes about 10 seconds to put this together. Just because I said that, it's going to take longer. Here we go. Let's see. Put that on the seat maybe. And inside here. Oh. Got the fan. All right, that's it. It's in. Now if I can get out. Okay. Whew. Whew. Longest 10 seconds ever. All right. Took me a little longer because I got caught on the wiring harness and it just wouldn't get out of the way. I love the idea that the wire that connects the heater is about this long, so you have to deal with that. But other than that, now before I go and put the seat back in and all that, probably be the best idea to check and see if this thing is running. So let's do that. All right, so it's probably easier to do it from the passenger side because there ain't no seat over there. So let's see. Turn the key. I'll even start it up. And a little noisy. May need to just wear in a little bit. But holy cow. That's I think I'm good to go. I really do. Oh, it smells like it smells like hair clipper oil. Wow. I hope I didn't knock the balance off. There's a small balancer on the fan, and I hope I didn't knock it off while I was cleaning it. Anyway, that's annoying as hell. I usually never run the fan more than speed number 2 anyway. 2 and 3 is okay. Let's try it with just the oop, go ahead. I could be a little happier with the results if it wasn't so noisy, but I'm hoping maybe that'll just work itself out with time as the parts kind of wear together. All I got to do left now is to put the seat back in and connect up the wiring harness and the seat belt, and I'll be back in business again. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a share, whatever. And leave some comments down below. If I left anything out, let me know and I'll try and fill you in on that in comment section. Remember, you can go back and look at the other video in the description below to see how to clean the commutator. Very easy method that I came up with. And I hope if you have a problem like I do with my Smart for 2 heater fan, that you're able to resolve it. And maybe this video will be a little helpful in you doing that. So thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.